What happens when a CEO's 28-year-old son is being sued by an employee for wrongful termination and harassment, and then in the middle of the employee's testimony in Judge Caprio's courtroom, he stands up and shouts, "You're testifying against me? You're fired. My dad owns this company. You're done." This young man is about to learn that some firings are illegal retaliation, some courtrooms have rules you can't break, and some CEOs choose protecting their company's integrity over protecting sons who abuse their power. But what makes this case absolutely stunning isn't just the wrongful termination lawsuit or the harassment claims. It's what he did during the trial, how he tried to intimidate a witness in open court, and what his CEO father said when Judge Caprio called him and put him on speakerphone in front of the entire courtroom, the intimidated employee, and his son, who thought running daddy's company meant he could fire anyone who challenged him. Let us know where you're watching from, because what happens next will show you that corporate power doesn't purchase exemption from accountability, not even when your father owns the company and you think you're untouchable. It's a Wednesday morning in Providence Municipal Court, and Judge Frank Caprio is handling a civil wrongful termination and harassment case that has generated attention in the local business community. The case involves workplace harassment, abuse of power, and the question of whether family connections to corporate leadership grant immunity from employment law. Michael Donovan, aged 28, son of billionaire CEO Robert Donovan, who owns Donovan Industries, a major manufacturing company in Rhode Island, is being sued by former employee James Mitchell. James Mitchell, age 42, worked as a production manager at Donovan Industries for 11 years. He was a dedicated employee with excellent performance reviews, responsible for overseeing 35 workers and managing production timelines. James was fired 3 months ago under circumstances he claims were retaliatory and illegal. The case centers on Michael Donovan, who was given a vice president position at his father's company 2 years ago, despite having no manufacturing experience and a reputation for arrogance and poor treatment of employees. Michael reported directly to his father and was given authority over multiple departments, including James's production division. According to James's lawsuit and supporting testimony from coworkers, Michael Donovan created a hostile work environment. He regularly berated employees in front of others, called them incompetent, made threats about firing people who questioned his decisions, and reminded everyone constantly that his father owned the company. James Mitchell documented multiple incidents over 18 months. Michael calling a 55-year-old employee too old and slow to keep up. Michael telling a worker who requested medical leave, "Weak people don't belong here." Michael threatening to fire anyone who went to HR with complaints. The final incident occurred 3 months ago during a production meeting. Michael was presenting a plan to speed up production that James believed would compromise safety standards and violate OSHA regulations. James raised concerns professionally, citing specific safety codes. Michael's response, witnessed by 12 employees, was explosive. He told James he was undermining leadership, called him a nobody who should remember his place, and said, "My father owns this company and I can do whatever I want." When James persisted in his safety concerns and mentioned he might need to file a formal report, Michael fired him on the spot. "You're done. Pack your desk. If you file anything, I'll make sure you never work in manufacturing again in this state." James was escorted out by security that day. 2 weeks later, he filed a wrongful termination lawsuit claiming he was fired in retaliation for raising safety concerns, which is illegal under both state and federal law. He also filed harassment claims documenting Michael's pattern of abusive behavior. The case went through preliminary hearings and is now in Judge Caprio's courtroom for witness testimony and judgment. Michael Donovan walks into the courtroom wearing an expensive suit, designer watch visible, carrying himself with the confidence of someone who has never faced real consequences. His attorney is Richard Morrison from Providence's most expensive corporate law firm. James Mitchell sits at the plaintiff's table with his attorney Sarah Chen, a labor rights lawyer known for taking on powerful companies. James looks nervous but determined. He's been unemployed for 3 months, struggling to pay his mortgage and support his wife and 2 teenage children. No manufacturing company in Rhode Island will hire him because word spread that he was fired by Donovan Industries, and nobody wants to anger a company that powerful. The courtroom has several spectators, including 3 former Donovan Industries employees who came to support James, knowing they're risking their own jobs to be here. Judge Caprio reviews the case file. This is a civil matter regarding wrongful termination and workplace harassment. Mr. Mitchell alleges he was fired in retaliation for raising legitimate safety concerns. Mr. Donovan denies wrongful termination and claims Mr. Mitchell was fired for insubordination and poor performance. We'll hear testimony and review evidence. Michael's attorney Morrison stands. Your Honor, my client strongly denies these allegations. Mr. Mitchell was terminated for cause due to repeated insubordination and failure to follow company directives. This lawsuit is simply an attempt to extract money from a successful family business. Judge Caprio looks at Morrison. Mr. Morrison, we'll determine the facts through testimony. Call your first witness. James's attorney Sarah Chen calls James Mitchell to testify. James takes the stand and is sworn in. Chen begins questioning him about his employment history, his role at Donovan Industries, and his relationship with Michael Donovan. James describes starting at the company 11 years ago, working his way up from floor supervisor to production manager, consistently receiving positive reviews and raises. Then 2 years ago, Michael Donovan joined the company as VP. Everything changed, James testifies. Michael had no manufacturing experience, but his father gave him authority over multiple departments, including mine. From day one, he treated employees like we were beneath him. Can you give specific examples? Chen asks. James describes multiple incidents. Michael calling a longtime employee incompetent and replaceable in front of the entire production floor. Michael telling another employee who requested time off for his daughter's surgery, "Your personal problems aren't my concern. Figure it out or quit." Michael threatening to fire anyone who made him look bad in front of his father. And then James describes the final incident. We were in a production meeting. Michael wanted to increase line speed by 30%. I reviewed the proposal and realized it would require bypassing several safety protocols. As production manager, safety is my responsibility. I raised concerns. What happened when you raised those concerns? Chen asks. Michael got angry. He told me I was undermining his authority. He said I was trying to make him look bad. I tried to explain these were OSHA requirements, not optional. He cut me off and said, "My father owns this company. I decide what happens here. You're just an employee." James pauses, clearly reliving the moment. I told him I might need to file a formal safety report. That's when he fired me. He said, "You're done. Pack your desk. And if you file anything, I'll make sure you never work in this state again." Were there witnesses to this? Chen asks. Yes. 12 employees were in that meeting. Judge Caprio asks, Mr. Mitchell, do you have documentation of these incidents? Yes, Your Honor. I kept detailed notes with dates, times, and witnesses. I also have emails where I raised safety concerns professionally. James's attorney presents the documentation, emails showing James raising legitimate safety issues, notes documenting Michael's abusive behavior with dates and witness names, performance reviews showing James was an excellent employee until Michael arrived. As this evidence is being presented, Michael Donovan sits at the defense table looking increasingly irritated. He's typing on his phone, shaking his head, making dismissive gestures. Judge Caprio notices but continues listening to testimony. Chen asks James about the impact of his termination. James's voice becomes emotional. Your Honor, I've been unemployed for 3 months. I've applied to 23 manufacturing positions in Rhode Island. Nobody will hire me. Word got around that Donovan Industries fired me. Companies are afraid to anger them. I've burned through my savings. My mortgage is 2 months behind. My daughter had to defer college because we can't afford it now. I didn't do anything wrong. I raised safety concerns, which is my job, which is the law, and I was punished for it. Judge Caprio asks Michael's attorney if he wants to cross-examine. Morrison stands and attempts to paint James as a difficult employee who couldn't follow directions, but James remains calm and professional, citing specific examples of his excellent work and noting that his only insubordination was refusing to violate federal safety regulations. Then Chen calls her second witness, David Rodriguez, a current Donovan Industries employee who worked directly with James and witnessed the final confrontation. Rodriguez looks terrified to be testifying against his employer's son, but he's under subpoena. Mr. Rodriguez, you were present at the meeting where Mr. Mitchell was fired? Chen asks. Yes, I was there. Can you describe what happened? Rodriguez glances nervously at Michael, then testifies. James raised concerns about the production speed increase. He was professional. He cited specific safety codes. Michael got really angry. He told James he was undermining him. James tried to explain it was about following regulations. Michael cut him off and said his father owns the company and he can do whatever he wants. Then he fired James on the spot and threatened him. And that's when it happens. Michael Donovan stands up at the defense table. His face is red. His voice is loud enough that everyone in the courtroom turns to look. You're testifying against me? Are you serious right now? Michael's attorney tries to grab his arm. Michael, sit down. Michael shakes him off and points directly at David Rodriguez on the witness stand. You're done, David. You're fired. My dad owns that company and I run it. You just testified against me in court. Pack your desk. You're fired right now. The courtroom erupts. Judge Caprio's voice cuts through. Mr. Donovan, sit down immediately. Michael ignores him, still pointing at Rodriguez. Did you hear me, David? You're fired. You and anyone else who came here today. You all think you can testify against me? My father owns Donovan Industries. I can fire whoever I want. Judge Caprio stands from his bench. Mr. Donovan, you are in contempt of court. Bailiff. Michael turns to Judge Caprio, his arrogance fully on display. Contempt? I'm the VP of Donovan Industries. My father is one of the most powerful businessmen in Rhode Island. You can't hold me in contempt. I'm firing an employee. That's my right. Judge Caprio's voice becomes ice cold. Mr. Donovan, you just attempted to fire a witness in the middle of testimony in my courtroom. You just engaged in illegal witness intimidation and retaliation in front of me, in front of court reporters, in front of everyone here. You've just proven Mr. Mitchell's entire case. Michael seems to finally realize he's made a catastrophic mistake, but his arrogance won't let him back down. My father will. Hear about this. Judge Caprio makes a decision that will become legendary. Your father? Let's call your father right now. Clerk, get Robert Donovan, CEO of Donovan Industries, on the phone immediately. We're going to discuss his son's behavior in open court. Michael's face goes from red to pale. Your Honor, that's not necessary. Oh, it's very necessary, Mr. Donovan. You've mentioned your father 5 times in the last 2 minutes. You've claimed his ownership gives you immunity from employment law. You just fired a witness during testimony and threatened others. Let's hear what your father has to say about that. Within minutes, the clerk has Robert Donovan on the line. Judge Caprio puts the call on speakerphone. Mr. Donovan, this is Judge Frank Caprio in Providence Municipal Court. Your son Michael is here for a wrongful termination hearing. In the middle of witness testimony, he stood up in my courtroom and fired the witness. He then threatened to fire anyone else who testified against him. He's repeatedly claimed that because you own the company, he can do whatever he wants. I'm putting you on speaker so we can discuss this publicly. There's a long pause. When Robert Donovan speaks, his voice is professional but tense. Your Honor, did you say my son fired a witness during testimony in your courtroom? That's exactly what I said, Mr. Donovan, and he threatened others. Judge Caprio continues. Mr. Donovan, your son is being sued for wrongful termination and harassment. The plaintiff claims your son fired him for raising safety concerns. Your son just proved that claim by firing another employee in my courtroom for testifying truthfully under oath. Another pause. Then Robert Donovan's voice changes completely. Your Honor, is the witness he fired still present? Yes, Mr. Donovan. David Rodriguez is on the witness stand. Mr. Rodriguez, Robert Donovan's voice fills the courtroom. I'm Robert Donovan, CEO of Donovan Industries. First, you are not fired. You are protected by law as a witness under subpoena. Second, I apologize that you were put in this position. David Rodriguez looks stunned. Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Robert Donovan continues, his voice becoming harder. Your Honor, I need to make something very clear. My son does not have the authority to fire anyone without my approval and HR review. That policy has been in place for 6 months, specifically because of complaints about his behavior. Judge Caprio asks the critical question. Mr. Donovan, are you aware that your son has created a hostile work environment? The CEO's answer surprises everyone. Yes, Your Honor, I'm aware. I've received complaints. I've spoken to Michael multiple times. I thought I had it under control. Clearly, I was wrong. Michael tries to interrupt. Dad, these people are lying. They're trying to. Michael, Robert Donovan's voice cuts through like a knife. Be quiet. For once in your entitled life, be quiet and listen. The courtroom is silent. Robert Donovan continues. Your Honor, I'm going to tell you something I should have admitted months ago. I made a mistake giving my son a VP position. He wasn't qualified. He wasn't ready. I thought working in the family business would teach him responsibility. Instead, I enabled his worst qualities. He's used my name and my company as a shield to treat people terribly. Judge Caprio asks, Mr. Donovan, what are you saying? I'm saying my son is guilty of everything Mr. Mitchell alleged. I've read the complaints, I've talked to HR, I've seen the documentation. I've been hoping he would change. But what he just did in your courtroom, firing a witness and threatening others, that's who he is, and I can't protect that anymore. Michael stares in disbelief. Dad, you're supposed to be on my side. Your side? Robert Donovan's voice becomes emotional. Michael, you just proved you learned nothing from this lawsuit. You stood in a courtroom and fired someone for telling the truth. You threatened witnesses. You claim my ownership gives you immunity from law. That's not leadership. That's abuse of power. Judge Caprio asks. Mr. Donovan, Mr. Mitchell is suing for wrongful termination and harassment. What's your position? My position, Your Honor, is that Mr. Mitchell is right. He was wrongfully terminated. He raised legitimate safety concerns and was fired in retaliation. That's illegal and it's morally wrong. Michael's mouth drops open. Robert Donovan continues. Your Honor, I'm prepared to settle this case immediately. Full back pay for Mr. Mitchell, compensation for emotional distress, a positive reference letter, and a public statement from Donovan Industries acknowledging we were wrong. Judge Caprio asks, and what about your son's behavior today? Firing a witness in my courtroom? The CEO's response shocks everyone. Your Honor, I defer to your judgment on contempt charges. My son needs to learn that actions have consequences. As for his position at Donovan Industries, effective immediately, Michael is no longer employed by my company. He's terminated for cause for witness intimidation, illegal retaliation, and workplace harassment. Michael jumps up. You can't fire me. I'm your son. You're my son, and I love you. But you're also a liability to my company, to my employees, and to everything I've built. I'm firing you the same way you fired James Mitchell, except I have actual cause. The courtroom is stunned into silence. Robert Donovan continues. Your Honor, I want to address Mr. Mitchell directly if he's present. He is, Mr. Donovan. Mr. Mitchell, this is Robert Donovan. I owe you an apology. My son created a hostile work environment. He fired you illegally, and I didn't stop it soon enough. You raised legitimate safety concerns, which is not just your right, but your responsibility. You were punished for doing the right thing. That's unconscionable. My company will make this right financially. But more importantly, I'm implementing immediate changes. Mandatory management training, a zero tolerance, harassment policy, and independent HR oversight. This will never happen again at Donovan Industries. James Mitchell, emotional, responds. Mr. Donovan, I just wanted to work and support my family. That's all any of us want. I know, and you'll have that opportunity. Your Honor, I'm offering Mr. Mitchell his job back at Donovan Industries with a promotion to senior production manager, a 20% raise, and a formal apology from the company. Judge Caprio looks at James. Mr. Mitchell? James wipes his eyes. I accept, Your Honor. The call ends. Michael sits at the defense table completely destroyed. His attorney is packing his briefcase, clearly done with this case. Judge Caprio addresses Michael directly. Mr. Donovan, you came into my courtroom thinking your father's money and power would protect you. You fired a witness during testimony. You threatened others. You've demonstrated exactly the abusive behavior Mr. Mitchell alleged. For contempt of court, I'm fining you $10,000 personally. For witness intimidation, I'm referring this case to the state attorney for possible criminal charges, and I'm issuing a restraining order preventing you from any contact with Mr. Mitchell or Mr. Rodriguez. Michael tries one last time. My father will pay the fine. No, Mr. Donovan, your father just fired you. You'll pay this yourself. And maybe, just maybe, you'll learn that power comes with responsibility. Michael is led out of the courtroom by the bailiff. As he passes James Mitchell, he doesn't apologize, doesn't acknowledge what he did, just walks past in angry silence. David Rodriguez approaches James after the hearing. Thank you for standing up. I couldn't have done this without you supporting me. James shakes his hand. We protect each other. That's what workers do. Within days, the story spreads through Rhode Island's business community. Robert Donovan holds a press conference, announces his son's termination, unveils comprehensive workplace reforms at Donovan Industries, and publicly apologizes to every employee his son mistreated. Michael Donovan, now unemployed and facing possible criminal charges, finally begins to understand that being a CEO's son doesn't grant immunity from law or consequences. 6 months later, James Mitchell is thriving as senior production manager. The workplace culture at Donovan Industries has improved dramatically. Employees feel safe reporting concerns. Robert Donovan personally meets with production teams monthly. And David Rodriguez, the man Michael tried to fire for testifying, was promoted to assistant production manager. Michael, meanwhile, is working at a small startup with no family connection, no title, no power, just accountability. 1 year later, Michael requests a meeting with James. They meet at a neutral location. James agrees out of curiosity. Michael, humbled by a year of consequences, speaks. I was wrong about everything. I treated people terribly because I thought my father's company made me untouchable. Stood up for what was right, and I tried to destroy you for it. I'm sorry. James listens, then responds. I appreciate the apology, but understand something. You didn't just hurt me. You hurt David. You hurt every person you called incompetent. You hurt everyone who was afraid to speak up. Power is a responsibility, not a weapon. I hope you learned that. Michael nods. I did. The hard way. But I learned it. Don't forget to subscribe for more courtroom moments where corporate power meets accountability. Tyler Preston thought running his father's company meant he could fire anyone who challenged him. He stood in Judge Caprio's courtroom and fired a witness for telling the truth. He said, "My dad owns this company," as if that granted him immunity from law. Instead, he heard his CEO father support the employee he'd wronged. He heard his father fire him publicly. He heard his father choose integrity over protection. And those words, "You're fired," became the moment that taught him the most important lesson of his privileged life. That's justice. That's integrity. That's the legacy of Judge Frank Caprio and CEO Robert Donovan.